Hello comrades, Commissar Bro here today with another video. Yes, it's been quite a while since our last video, but let's not talk and dawdle on that for too long. Here today we are with Sudden Strike 4. That's right. This is a recently released World War II RTS. It's actually a sequel to some classic games, and surprisingly enough, I'm actually very unfamiliar with the Sudden Strike series. I never actually played them. But if this game is any indicator, I believe there's some pretty fun games. Honestly, just a little bit of time that I put into this one so far has been an absolute treat. I'm actually unsure of why the reviews are not a bit more positive, but maybe it's just because people have become so accustomed to games like Company of Heroes, and even, I guess, Steel Division, that it's hard for them to accept anything else, which is understandable. It's totally understandable. But basically, in itself, this is pretty much kind of more of a classic RTS. It's like a war game. You have limited resources. You don't have buildings that produce more units. In the skirmish mode, there is an ability to call in additional units. Depending on the scenario that you're playing, you will have reinforcements show up to help bolster defenses or help reinforce if you lose too many troops. But again, it is a war game in the end, so too many mistakes are going to end up costing you the scenario, and thus you'll have to do it over again. The first thing I really like about this game, honestly, and this may sound shallow, but for an RTS, this game is quite gorgeous. It looks really good. There's a lot of detail everywhere, all over the game. Again, you can just kind of look at the maps and just see the amount of detail that they actually put into designing these, from the houses and the gas stations and so on. It's really nice. I actually really like it. And especially the effects for, the battles themselves. It looks really good. It doesn't seem like it's the most realistic RTS known to mankind, but it's doing a pretty damn good job. It's got your standard World War II fare, deflection, tanks, different types of tanks in terms of like heavy tanks, medium tanks, light tanks. What's an interesting take in this case is it actually has fuel, ammunition, and health to go along with that. And something else I find kind of interesting that makes the fights a little bit more challenging is the fact that there is you can't fully heal up your units, which it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you're in the midst of battle, you're not exactly going to have the opportunity to sit there and completely patch up a hole that's been blown in the side of it. I really like that, actually. But it's a simple thing. It's not like it's an overly complicated feature that we've never seen before. Games like Men of War Assault Squad have stuff like that. But, to me, that's a nice touch. I like that. It's a simple thing. The soundtrack's also pretty great. The one thing I think I question the most is certain voice actors. They're great. They sound absolutely phenomenal. But it's more of like, I'm playing the Germans right now, and like we hear all these wonderful German unit acknowledgments, but the commanders actually giving us the mission and telling us what we have to do and so on and so forth are British or American accents. It's weird. It's so weird. Again, it's not bad. The voice actors are great, but it's kind of an interesting choice. I'm not sure why they decided to go with that. Ultimately, it's not a big deal, and I'm just kind of I'm a little not shallow, but definitely a little picky on stuff like that. But it doesn't like break the game by any means of the imagination. They're wonderful voice actors, and the game itself plays wonderfully. Again, I'm just enjoying looking at this particular battle. This is actually only the second battle in the German campaign. I've mostly been playing the skirmish mode because, with most games like this, those are the modes you want to focus on the most in terms of replayability. But from what I'm really experiencing is the most replayability is probably going to come out of these missions, which are actually really fun. Some more recent RTSs lately have just not seemed to strike a fun single player. whether the bots are retarded in terms of how they act, or whether it's just like a slog. Like Dawn of War 3 is a prime example where certain missions were just an absolute slog to get through, but you had to get through them if you wanted to know the story. Now everybody pretty much knows the history of World War II, or I assume if you're playing World War II strategy games, you probably have a pretty decent understanding of how things went down. So you're not exactly playing this for the story, which is completely understandable. But more so, it is a very fun little game to play in itself. Did my medic get killed? Oh, son of a bitch. I always have the medic in the front line. I always make that particular mistake. So yeah, Sudden Strike 4. My experience with it so far is pretty positive. It's fun. I really like the presentation of the game, from the graphical effects of it, to the soundtrack, to the way the maps look and the way the levels are designed. I very much enjoy the UI system. It's got that old school kind of isometric top-down look to it that, honestly, looking at it like this or in screenshots, it almost looks like it's a 2D game until you're actually playing it and you realize that this is entirely a 3D experience with a very beautiful graphics engine. So I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. And again, I've never actually played any of the Sudden Strike games before, so this is an interesting experience for me. Now, I'm not sure if the previous games were better or whatnot, but ultimately, my experience with this game is incredibly positive. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro, taking a look at Sudden Strike 4. You can pick it up now. It's available on Steam. It's a pretty fun game, and I actually recommend it. If not for just the missions like this alone, this is really fun. I'm barely even doing anything. It's great. Oh, forewarning, I am totally playing on easy, by the way. That's why there's like a very limited amount of challenge right here. But honestly, I wanted to play it on easy when I made my video, for the sake of being able to actually know what's going on and tell what's going on. Plus, sometimes you just like to slap down a bunch of flak 88s and watch them blow up British tanks. That's right, and that's pretty much what I'm doing right now, and I'm totally digging it. Anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.